So I'm going to take you through a little journey. This is a collection of poems that I wrote on the road. I went overseas to Europe, UK, etc., and came back with 100 poems, and that's coordinates of yes. I've been thinking a lot about travel as I'm working on a travel panel that I'll be presenting at AWP in March. So let's hear some travel poems. And if there's time, I'll read a poem or two. Düsseldorf, Germany, culminations. How's the volume?
Just raise the mic.
Raise the mic.
Yeah, it's falling down here below your chin when you're reading.
So go ahead and stand there. We'll just raise it so, how's there? Is that a little too much?
We're having a comical moment. Am I missing it?
Is that better?
Yeah, that's good. I think so.
I have a soft voice. Düsseldorf, Germany, culminations. The summer festival tonight. He can't join us until later. The rest of us get there early. During our dinner of pizza and champagne, the Rhine K packs tightly with those awaiting fireworks. Tonight, I leave. We can't get him on his cell phone. I thought we'd never find each other between near and an unforeseeable far. Finally, he rings and we try describing our location, me in English, directing Nicole in German. The horde of people listening and amused or annoyed, I cannot tell. Then I see him. Kai, Kai. He pushes through. The crowd cheers, parts, and in German someone cries, "Finally!" When we reach each other, I cannot conceive of ever letting go. Just then the boom, boom, boom of the artillery shells diffusing. The red pricks of light into a cinquefoil, their scintillation and crackling flares fusing out. We ah and clap through to the lingering haze of gray. He takes my hand. The sky still bursting umbels of lavender, blue, green, white, and he leads me through the mob, and I forget how to say excuse me in German. Smoke, jellyfish expunging, a matrix of flagella where light once stood. The cacophony, and then everything's obtuse, an uncertainty of happened from invented. We arrive at the train station with 5 minutes left. We hold on as long as possible. Although I ask him to go, he remains on the platform until my train blurs into night. We'll just go on through and let the silences happen. Couchette. Do you know what a couchette is in a train? It's like a sleeper car, and you enter the couchette and you don't know with whom you're sleeping. Anybody on the bunk? Yeah, it sounds like my years in college. No, kidding. Mom, if you're listening, I'm kidding. The dour conductor collects our passports. You're imperfectly valid with one. Without one, you're perfectly invalid. Shall we wake the German guy to work this cabin lock? I say to the Australian woman on the lower berth, trying not to disturb the Chinese man next to her. And as I write this down, the other Australian asks what I'm doing. To making poems, he says, influx. Tonight, the 5 of us sleep in motion with the steady swishing by of German air. Like on any other night, we simply take in what we can and convert it to what we need. Okay, now we're in France. At Juniper Berries Lake and Montagne Les Bons France, I consider travel. This morning, a young boy bikes to the opposite shore. He casts his line and waits. Water breezes west, birds strident in the oak trees, clouds meander east. He reels in nothing. He climbs on his bike and goes back the way he came. The wet line drips as he holds both pole and handlebars. Bicycle wheels steadfast over pebbly earth. The chain's slow, insistent squeak trails him home. After meeting an American artist in Paris who hadn't bathed since Thursday. I wait in my hotel's courtyard. Oftentimes I first trust, then ask why, how. Chopin plays from an upper room. The shower chimes from my own. A man singing. I cannot make out the language. Perhaps it is the stranger in my room. This garden, stark except for 30 containers of coral-colored perennials, the white plastic table and chairs, and me dressed in black and writing more quickly now as I become cognizant of the suspended water and how some days I seduce and other days I merely fall into. The steam still rising off his skin, water drips from the ends of blonde curls. During my travels, I was reading The Little Prince, and so I created this pastiche. Do you know this technique where you pluck lines, favorite lines from another author's work, and you rearrange it, and voila. So I call this piece "The Traveler is a Child with Stars and a Flower," and all of these lines are written by the author of The Little Prince, whose name I cannot pronounce. So. Ah, je pense que oui, merci. Grown-ups grow 5,000 roses in the same garden, and they do not find what they are looking for. The eyes are blind. The flower stretches itself timidly at first, and then begins pushing a charming little sprig toward the sun. Words are a source of misunderstanding. It is only with one's heart that one can see. Sometimes there is just enough room for a lamppost and a lamplighter. The flower continues preparing its beauty in its green chamber. It is not the geographer's task to count the rivers, the mountains, and deserts. Geographers don't record flowers. They write of eternal things. Flowers are ephemeral. When one feels lonely in the desert, it is important to remember it is just as lonely among men. The wind blows them around. They repeat whatever one says to them. The child's flower is always the first to speak. Listen to the stars. The stars are wells with rusty pulleys. They pour drinking water. It is like listening to light metallic sound. Little bells changing themselves into tears. Perhaps flowers have thorns out of spite. Flowers are complex creatures. Sometimes one is too young to know how to love. When one is terribly sad, one loves sunsets. The land of tears is so mysterious. The child presses her nose against the window pane. All the stars a riot of flowers. Only children know what they are looking for. The stars are beautiful because of a flower one cannot see. Notre Dame de Paris. My final night in Paris, we meet at the bookstore across from the Notre Dame. Its south front side with rose window, radial petals, tracery, and spire. We buy falafel from a street vendor, beers for 10 francs, and walk across to the west two-tower facade, its entire face having been forced white with pressure washing, and we dine on the Seine Quay. Our backs to the twins and spire, toward the sun, tired over the river. Because passers-by do not notice us, no one cares to know our names or wonders if this will be our last meal or how, when I'm saying goodbye, it feels like I had just formed hello in my mouth. Afterwards, we get ice cream. White chocolate and cassis for me because he suggests it. We find another place to sit along the quay. The northeast side of the church, still drab with soot and diesel, and I think to myself, maybe they'll get around to it someday. Years of Paris dropping into the Seine, and that's when he tells me how with Lou Gehrig's disease, he'll likely be dead in 5 years. Dead before 30. And as I have lived barely 30 years, all I can do is look out over the river and consider those rose windows and their transoms, how they're actually squared off, intercepted circles. I say nothing. Nothing. When he rolls up his sleeves to expose truant muscles, nothing. Nothing. Even when he asks if we can hold each other tonight, share a bed and holding on to what holds us, holding to that one moment when I look out onto that cathedral, unable to decide if I'm beauty or beast. So about half of the poems in this book are ekphrastic poems, poems written to the visual arts. So here's one by a painting you might be familiar with, by Waterhouse, The Lady of Shalott. So his painting was inspired by a poem. So the poem inspired the painting, which inspired my poem. Faith leapt from the castle turret window into your brown prow. You in it for the journey, tired the way minutes merge, until one day you're 30 and still can find where Father bids you hold true. You had vowed never to know Camelot, the air of morning, dew flirting on a cheek. On walls and propped on easels, the mirrors permit the view of out there. But when it's not enough, and your blindness unbinds, and your eyes sin against the man who is father and law, to that small brown prow you go, where even the crucifix you cannot know. Now we're in Ireland. Island to island. Amid crowns of heather, I sit on a sheer, sure cliff of the Irish Sea. far out water as quiet as glass, a colony of gulls, a bobbing sea lion that plunge into blue, frightening, inviting water prisms refracting with the assuredness of a lighthouse. Over the sea, wisps of nomadic clouds. I wait for something to happen, like how the ocean, when it closes in on land, turns a shy white. Portaging the final day. Part 1 open. How do the blind know of this blind garden? By words of mouth whirled in touch. Opportunities for foliage and flora in one hand, while fingering the plaque with the other. Touch of petals, smell of sun, raised parchment, the punched out translation of ink into a language without accent. After brunch, we visit the garden, and though we're both sighted, I've never been so unseeing. Time pounding me on, insisting. Part 2, open. This afternoon at the porterhouse, I wish you would strum for me like that first night. How shall I forget you? The way you slipped me up, slipped me into your pocket, how blind it was there, blind to the derelict life, loving. This hour I am vexed by bouts of sanity, how the mirror pierces the eyes of blue and meadow, and nothing lovely except mere notion. When you dedicated a song to me, the C string broke. I can't blame it, really. Things undoing, unfettered, the inevitability of parting, vows to never, 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 the ticks that hail us on. Part 3, closing. It's evening and I'm drinking, so I can say this. I prefer the before. Before the tradition of fiction to fact. During your first set last Sunday, we did not know, and now that I know, I want it all back, a week knowing you. Walking on eyes shelled blind. To remain strangers, take back the introductions, stop the beers, the way undiscovered possibilities don't disappoint. And because I can love, please, that requiem, and the way I found me in the lyrics, thousands of miles away, thousands away. Part 4, closed. 2 a.m. and drunk, and it's 3 hours until my flight. I am ready. Me, the ancient tomb of blind skin. As certain questions unravel, I am poised now to collect them. This has nothing to do with him. It has to do with our bout between urns. What steeps under skin, the cellular level is deceptive. The blind in my garden understand this is all one can give and have given it. Pressed between the leaves, this is what I'll take away. To love and to be loved, the blind must lead. At U.S. Customs. He asks, do you have anything to claim? He means something they should know about. A confession, perhaps, say Jim Morrison's bust, or first edition Ulysses. How to explain there are certain things you cannot hold in your hand? Yes, okay. He is asking about the contents of my pack. A stolen wine key, a mousetrap with goat cheese and blood still crusted in the spring, the carcass of an Irish bee. No, he doesn't care about those. What do I have to claim? I'm still standing here. I pull the backpack tight to my body. It's all I have left.